I stood alone in the crowd. The stadium was thunderous. Flags waved like wild flames in the hands of chanting fans, and the air smelled of sweat, popcorn, and old beer. But for me, the only thing that mattered was the number 10 sprinting down the field, my son, Ryan. His name echoed through loudspeakers, cheered by thousands. They didn't know he used to fall asleep on my shoulder with a football in his arms. They didn't know I sold my bike to buy his first pair of cleats, but I knew, and tonight I wasn't just watching a match. I was watching a dream that once began in our cracked backyard, playing out under stadium lights. When he scored a beautiful curving goal from outside the box, the stadium erupted. I jumped up, clapping like a man possessed. Pride burned in my chest. That's my boy, but he didn't look at me. He didn't even glance. When the final whistle blew and the team walked around acknowledging fans, Ryan came toward my side of the stands. My heart raced. I reached up, waving, smiling stupidly like some overexcited schoolboy. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. No returned calls, no messages. Then it happened. He grabbed a plastic cup of beer from a fan, turned, and with a smile on his face, he threw it at me. The cold liquid hit my face. The cup bounced off my shoulder. People around me gasped. Some laughed. I froze, beer dripped from my chin, soaking into my collar, and then he said it, louder than the crowd, louder than the music. "You're nobody." 1,000 cameras turned. His teammates pulled him back, laughing nervously, as if it were some inside joke, but there was no joke in his eyes. Only bitterness. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just turned and walked away. Outside the stadium, the streetlights flickered like failing memories. I sat on a bench near the parking lot, letting the silence wrap around me like an old coat. Every cheer I heard from inside the stadium felt like an echo of the love I once gave thrown back at me in a paper cup full of beer. "You're nobody." I raised that boy, alone. His mother left when he was 7. I was the one who packed his lunch, showed him how to tie his laces, taught him the power of humility. I never wanted applause, just a handshake after the game, a "thanks, Dad." But maybe he outgrew that. Maybe he outgrew me. Later that night, I sat at home with the TV off, staring at the wall. His face was all over the news. Ryan Ahmed leads victory, celebrates wildly with fans. They didn't mention the beer. They didn't mention me. That was when I realized something that broke me more than his words ever could. He meant it. He really believed I was nobody. But sometimes life has a funny way of giving you back your voice, not through shouting, not through revenge, but through quiet purpose. And though he didn't know it yet, he'd just started the journey that would teach him the value of the man he humiliated. He'd thrown beer at the wrong ghost, and soon he'd learn. 3 years passed, 3 whole years since the beer. Since the crowd laughed, since my son told the world I was nobody, he never called, never explained. Not a word. In those years, I didn't go near another football stadium. I stopped watching the game altogether. I even gave away my old coaching books and clippings. The world I had once bled for on torn fields, under broken lights, had become something cold. Corporate, loud, and my son, he became a star. Ryan's face was everywhere. Billboards, commercials, interviews where he spoke like a prophet, smooth and polished, words written by agents. They loved his arrogance, the same arrogance that poured down my face in that stadium. But fame has teeth. Rumors started, club fights, missed practices. A video of him shouting at a coach went viral. Then came the scandal, a brawl outside a nightclub. Sponsorships pulled back. His image was cracking. And in all that time, I never said a word. Not to anyone, not to the media, not even to myself, really. I just kept living. I worked at a local school as a janitor. Humble job, quiet hours. Sometimes I'd sit on the bleachers after school, listening to the wind blow through the empty goalposts. The grass was uneven, the nets were torn, but it reminded me of something purer, something real. One afternoon, a boy named Kashif found me watching from the sidelines. "You used to play, right?" he asked, squinting at my limp and crooked fingers. I nodded. Long ago. You ever teach? I almost said no. But something in his eyes, something hungry, pulled me in. I started showing him moves during lunch breaks. 1 became 2, 2 became 10. Within months, I was unofficially coaching a group of kids from the schoolyard. They weren't rich. Most of them came from broken homes. Some had nothing but torn shoes and 2 big shirts. But they listened, they tried, and for the first time in years I felt seen, not as Ryan's father, not as a nobody, just as coach. One evening, while sorting through some old boxes in the shed behind my house, I found something I thought I'd lost, an old leather-bound notebook. My training journal. Inside were diagrams, formations, quotes I'd written to myself when I was Ryan's age. The game is won by heart, not headlines. A father's pride isn't loud, it's lasting. Play like someone's watching, even if no one is. I smiled at the irony. I had once written these for myself, then taught them to my son. Now, they were going to someone else's children. Kids who listened, kids who respected, kids who called me somebody. One day, I saw Ryan on TV again, this time not on the field, but in a courtroom hallway, pushing cameras away, face red with frustration. His team had suspended him indefinitely, sponsors had vanished, commentators said he had become too difficult, too angry, too toxic. And I realized something. He had everything: money, fame, a name, but he had no roots. He'd cut them off when he cut me off. And now, with the wind howling, he had no ground to stand on. Months later, one of my players, Kashif, scored a goal in a local league final. It was a goal I'd only ever seen one person do before, Ryan, a feint to the left shoulder drop, tight angle curve. Textbook, except it wasn't his anymore. It was ours now. The kids lifted the trophy and lifted me on their shoulders, laughing, screaming my name. Not for cameras, not for social media, just because they loved me. That night, sitting by the field, I whispered into the wind, "You were right, Ryan. I was nobody to you, but you were wrong about what that meant. Because sometimes, the ones you throw away, they go on to raise warriors." I didn't hate him. I didn't want revenge. But I wanted him to see, to look into the eyes of a child who never met me before, and realize they knew a version of me he forgot. I didn't need to scream back. I didn't need beer or headlines or a microphone. I just needed a ball, a patch of grass, and a few kids who believed in me. And when the time came, when his pride finally broke, he'd have to walk through my world to find the man he buried in shame. And only then would he learn. The sky was overcast when he returned. I hadn't seen my son, Ryan, in almost 4 years. Not since the match, the beer, the laughter, the humiliation, but now he stood on the other side of the pitch where I coached every afternoon. Alone, no entourage, no agents, no cameras, just him, and in his eyes not fire, not fame, shame. That day started like any other. The kids were doing drills, laughing, stumbling, learning. Kashif was practicing his footwork, trying to perfect the move that won us last month's tournament. But the moment Ryan stepped onto the field, everything slowed. I saw him from a distance, hands in his pockets, shoulders heavier than I remembered. Time had taken its toll on him, or maybe it was the weight of his own decisions. The kids didn't recognize him at first. Just another stranger in the dust, until one boy whispered, "Is that Ryan Ahmed?" Suddenly, the laughter faded. The football rolled to a stop. All eyes turned to me. He walked over slowly, stopping a few feet away. We stood face to face for the first time since the beer hit my face. He looked smaller, not physically, but spiritually. The kind of small you become when everything you built with ego comes crashing down. "Hi, Dad," just that.